This is Algebra Final Test Review number 3, Warmup. So we have just separating out the different kinds of solving here. So first one is solve by factoring, solve by taking square roots. So they're narrowing it down. You don't have to try to decide yourself. So if we're going to solve by factoring, we have to set everything equal to 0. So I'm going to move that 4 over. And I can start factoring right now, but what I notice is that there's twos. They're both twos here, and I know 2 goes into 60. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2 and make this a lot easier. Now, I just have to find two factors that multiply to give me 30 and give me a difference of 1. And so I do my guess and check. You can 6 and 5, 10 and 3, etc. 6 and 5 will give me a difference of 1. I want that to be -1, so I put the negative with my 6, positive with my 5. And since we are solving, we're not factoring. I mean, it's exciting you got this far, but you are solving, so you need to set these factors equal to 0 and solve the little equation. Second one says solve by taking square roots. That means get the squared term by itself. So I'm moving that over here. 4x squared equals 25. Divide by 4. X squared equals 25 over 4. So now when we take the square root of both sides, you can put this in your calculator. But you also might notice the square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of 4 is 2. We didn't really go over that property because you have the calculator. You could also write this as plus or minus 2.5. Solve with the quadratic formula. Lately, we've been doing some problems where the variables are not all on the same side. If you're going to use quadratic formula and it works on every quadratic, you need to first bring everything to one side, set everything equals 0, and write the order from the highest power to the lowest power. Once you have that, then you know what the a is always the number in front of the squared term, the b is the number in front of the single power term, and c is the constant. So we can plug it in and go from here. So opposite of b, plus or minus square root, use parentheses because you're using a calculator, b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So just double check your signs, make sure we didn't lose any values here. When you go to put this in your calculator, you have basically 1 minus 96. And put that in your calculator, and you get some kind of an error message because this is going to be negative. It's an imaginary number, so we can just write no real solutions or no real roots. That's fine too. So that means that if you would have tried to factor this, you would have tried all your combinations and none of them would have worked out. So that's how that kind of connects, that you would leave that, and it's prime as far as the real numbers go. Okay, so now to the graphs, and mostly reading is the issue. Sketch a parabola. It has a vertex at 2, 1. So there's my vertex. And zeros at 1 and 3. Zeros are x-intercepts. They basically mean the same thing. Well, if the vertex is up there and you have to go through the zeros, that means this parabola is facing down. We know the highest point would be at 1. That occurs at 2. That's about all you can tell from this. It says sketch a parabola that has a maximum and no real solutions. Well, solutions are where we cross the x-axis, and maximum means it's a parabola that's facing down. The top point is the highest point. So if we want no real solutions, then it would have to be something like this. Anything in here that doesn't touch the x-axis. And this last question on here on this picture is, it's really important that you know the different vocabulary, because when we're doing these problems, there's really only a couple things they can ask you with the word problems, but you have to know what we're referring to. So it says mark each and label. I know the vertex is an easy one, and line of symmetry is usually fairly easy, but maybe if you have to find it and not just look at it, that is not as easy, and should write it as an equation. The thing to know is this x is the first, it's the x coordinate of the vertex as well. So it also, when you find the vertex, you're finding two answers to a word problem. There's your y-intercept, there's your x-intercept. The zeros, these are the same. One is written as a coordinate. The roots, they are the same. And then the solutions would be where we cross the x-axis. The way you find solutions in a crazy word problem equation is the quadratic formula. So all the factoring and solving and everything we do is to find the zeros. When you're doing other things, those are not factoring and solving.